Welcome back, this is Strat, and this is episode 6 of my Zombies weapon ranking. In this series, we rank weapons based on multiple factors to help determine their scores. Since these guns are being ranked on their individual performance, they will only be assisted by my knife and my grenades. Today we're covering what most believe to be the best wall weapon in World at War, and I am inclined to agree, and that weapon is the Thompson. For those that are wondering why the World at War Thompson is so revered by many people, look no further than the stats. The Thompson is a fully automatic submachine gun that does an incredibly high base damage of 120 per shot. The only other weapon we've encountered so far that shares the same base damage is the M1 carbine, and that's a single fire marksman rifle. And to make things even crazier, if you add the headshot multiplier onto it, this gun can get up to almost 500 damage per shot. With the exception of the shotguns, this is the highest damage one bullet can do from a wall weapon, and you have 220 of them. And to further glaze this weapon, it's also the only wall gun that's capable of putting out 100k total damage if you hit all headshots. The shotguns and other SMGs do come close, but they fall just short, whereas the Thompson actually exceeds it by a couple thousand. Anyway, we can clearly see that the Thompson is the cream of the crop on paper, but how does it do in practice? And well, it's just as good as you'd expect it to be. It's great at killing dogs and generating points, and is an all-rounder at just about everything. I don't think it's too crazy to say that the Thompson was the first weapon that you bought if you didn't want to mess with the box. This is because it's statistically better than about half the weapons you could get randomly anyway, and even the ones that beat it have the disadvantage of not having ammo readily available. And with that, we've talked about all the strengths of the base Thompson, but what weaknesses are there if there even are any? The first and most obvious is the mag capacity only being 20, whereas every other automatic wall weapon has at least 30 or 32. However, this weakness is kind of offset by the fact that the Thompson has, I think, the fastest reload speed out of all the wall weapons. This means that even without speed cola, it's very rare for a reload to be the cause of your death. The biggest weakness for the Thompson isn't even involved with the gun directly, but rather where it's placed. The Thompson is in the warehouse, a place that is decently easy to train if you know your way around, however it becomes a lot more difficult to do so if you open up the stairs. With the stairs being closed, you can use it as a stalling spot to help more zombies come in so they're more grouped up. By opening those stairs, you not only get rid of the stalling spot and allow zombies another direction to attack you from, but you also completely destroy the spawn manipulation spot that is next to double tap. If you are not aware of what I am referencing, I'm talking about when you stand in front of the double tap machine and do not go into the room with the debris to the staircase. If you do so, zombies will only spawn in front of you and not behind you in the room with the teleporter and the Type 100. If you've been watching any number of my videos, you've seen me doing it in the background for every single weapon. This is because it allows you to make a pseudo camping spot for yourself. The reason that it's categorized as a pseudo camping spot instead of a normal one is that you can go out the back if need be and you will not be punished in any way. This spot is perfect for training up the entire horde of 24 or for dog rounds, as they also cannot spawn behind you. So with this, you are left with a choice. Either you don't open the door to allow for the camping spot and training spot to be at their best, or you do open it to allow for easier access to reloads for the Thompson. The reason I say this allows for easier reloads if the door is open is if it is closed and you come in here for ammunition, you're going to have to kill at least a couple zombies to be able to make it back out. The worst case scenario is that they'll start spawning from both windows in the room and make it very difficult to start that initial train. And since the room has some janky corners and edges, if the zombies push you into one of those, it's game over. Other than this dilemma, the Thompson is a great weapon that's worth picking up on any round, as it always fulfills some kind of purpose, whether it be getting points or killing zombies. So, if the base Thompson is this good, then that means the Pack-a-Punch version must be too, right? Well, let's see. When you Pack-a-Punch the Thompson, it turns into the Gibs-o-matic. The first thing to note about the Gibbs is that it does not retain the extra damage that the Thompson had over the other SMGs. Instead, the Gibbs now shares the same base damage and body multipliers as the Afterburner. It isn't all bad though, as the Gibbs sports the highest total ammo capacity of the 3 wall weapon SMGs at 290. The extra bullets, as well as the slightly better wall location, already have it edging out the Afterburner by quite a bit. Since the Gibs-o-matic, like I said, has the same damage profile as the Afterburner, all the strengths that come with it are the same here, that being its powerful headshots and consistency against hellhounds. Luckily, the Gibbs does not share the same weaknesses, that being the wall location of the MP40 as well as the lack of ammo that the Pack-a-Punch version has. If I had to give the Gibs-o-matic one real weakness, it's that the Thompson is just so much better than it in every way. Now I know what I just said completely contradicts the stats I just showed you, but it's kinda true. The base Thompson has really good early to mid-game potential for killing zombies, and then any time after that it's really good for racking up points. And since most of your kills are going to be coming from traps in the late game, it's pretty nice that a gun that generates points is right next to a trap. Now the Gibs-o-matic does have good killing potential and a nice total ammo capacity, but the problem is that its killing power isn't best in class even if you're just including the wall SMGs. That is why I think it's best if you just keep the gun unpack-a-punched and use it for points for those traps. With that out of the way, we can go ahead and move on to scoring these weapons. Now the first category up is going to be the same as always. It's peak performance, or the last round that the gun's purpose is still viable. Now I know I just talked about how the Thompson is technically viable forever since it can get points for traps which kill zombies infinitely. Trust me, this will be taken into account later, but for now we're just going to rank it based off its ability to kill zombies. And on that front, I'm going to put it in the same basket as the MP40, as even though it does extra damage, it starts to fall off once you're facing those dogs mid-round. If 2 or 3 of those freaks spawn in at the same time, you'll have to use a couple mags alone just to take them out. So for those reasons, I'm going to be giving it a peak performance of round 15, which is the round before the mid-round dogs start to spawn. Now, since the Gibs-o-matic does share the same damage as the Afterburner, it on paper should get the same peak performance of round 29. However, because the Gibbs does have more ammo, I'm going to give it round 30 instead, as now it has a different issue of its magazine size being smaller, so you're doing less burst damage but more overall damage. The next category up is a weapon's ease of use, or how difficult it is to use a weapon effectively across multiple strategies. Both of these weapons have high mobility, a decent hipfire spread, as well as a fast reload time, which if you pair that with double tap and speed cola, you can basically do any strategy you want. I know I gave the MP40 and Afterburner an 8 out of 10 here, so I'll give the Thompson and Gibbs a 9 out of 10 simply because the Thompson has a higher unpack-a-punch damage than the MP40, which will make it more effective against zombies. This next category involves comparing wall weapons of similar roles and or point cost to see which one comes out on top. Seeing how we pitted the STG versus the MP40 in the last episode, it makes sense that we're going to pit the Thompson versus the Type 100 in this one. Now, if you look at the stats for both of these weapons, it might seem strange that we're comparing them as very few of these statistics are similar. The Thompson clearly has the edge here with both reload speed and damage numbers being higher, however it does cost an extra 200 points as well as it has less ammo in the magazine. Now the base damage of a weapon is very important when showing the strengths of a weapon, but it does not say everything. And while the Type 100 may fall behind on damage, it makes up for this with its magazine capacity as well as wall weapon location. Now, I had already discussed earlier why the Thompson room is a little bit interesting when it comes to buying the doors, as if you buy the door to the staircase, it messes up a lot of things for the entire game. The Type 100 does not have this issue, and it's also an essential door buy if you ever want to access the Pack-a-Punch machine. And when it comes to getting ammo for the Type 100, this is very easy because of what I said earlier, as the zombies do not spawn in that back part unless you cross the threshold, given you haven't opened the Thompson staircase, of course. And in the case that you are going to get Type 100 ammo, you shouldn't have to worry about zombies spawning there at all, as by the time you reach the teleporter room, all 24 zombies should have already spawned in by then. So not only do you not have to deal with the pressure of getting ammo like you do with the Thompson, but you have 24 zombies coming in a single file line for you to headshot on the way out. And if somehow you do get overwhelmed, you can always just use the teleporter to get out for free. Well, 1500 points. Before I actually decide on a score for this comparison, I should say that I'm pretty biased against the Thompson, as I almost never buy the door to the weapon at all. However, all that being said, the extra damage and total ammo capacity that the Thompson gives over the Type 100, I think makes it the better weapon here. Due to those other factors I mentioned, I don't think it's by a large margin, so I think what I'll do here is I'll give it a 6 out of 10 for just barely edging out its competition. Our last category to rank these weapons by is going to be their ability to save you when you're cornered by one or more zombies. This is going to be the moment where the Thompson takes a hit due to its less than ideal magazine capacity. Even the Gibs-o-matic has this issue, comparing the 40 bullets it has to the 64 and 60 of the MP40 and Type 100 respectively. This is not to say that the Thompson and Gibs-o-matic would not save you from 1 or 2, maybe even 3 zombies if you're trapped, if you're talking about the Gibs-o-matic specifically, but the problem is that you just don't have enough ammunition if they're all swarming you at once. When you're stuck in a corner surrounded by 10 sticky war-to-war zombies, the second you hit the reload button, your life is over. Due to both the Thompson and the Gibs-o-matic having a pretty decent hip-fire spread and rate of fire, I think I can give this a 7 out of 10 pretty happily. After all the categories, the Thompson sits at a beautiful 67 point total, but we're actually not done yet this time. I did point out earlier that the base Thompson is mostly used to generate points for the traps, as it is located right next to one. To me, this is a benefit that's so notable that I think I want to add it on as a perk to the weapon. Perks are something that improves general gameplay by a large margin, and it can usually only be done by this one weapon. For each perk a weapon has, I will add an additional 10 points to the total, which for the Thompson will now be 77. I think it goes without saying that there are no point deductions for this weapon, so this is where the total is going to stand. And if I'm correct, I think this is the highest so far, and it's probably going to stand for a long time. And with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on my Zombies weapon ranking. Ciao!